So this was the end of session number 3, the coastal zones. And now I would like to go ahead and take some time for discussion and questions. So anybody who would like to participate, discuss something or ask something, feel free, please.
Shall I make some attendees speak? Ms. Aphrodite Loliou has asked for
Yes, yes, please. Mrs. Loliou, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Well, I would like to set a question to Mr. Paravas towards his very, very interesting presentation. I would like to ask, we know and we understood from your presentation that the formation and the establishment of a marine protected area takes long. You also mentioned a local association there in the island of Santorini, and I'm wondering if they could unofficially make some efforts towards a result-driven idea. I do not know if they could do something towards the desired result, the local community. I'm not sure if you have already answered the question I'm making, because you have you gave us enough information on that, but I'm not sure if I got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question, and it's very interesting. So, if I understand well, you're you're asking if we could move on with a voluntary establishment of the MPA. Is this correct? Not bound by a legal framework, for example, that we pursue right now.
Mrs. Loliou?
Okay, I will move on with this. Of course, a voluntary scheme would be something that could move forward, but the problem is that the marine environment is something that doesn't have any limits or boundaries. So the uses and the users of the marine environment are many, not only from this island. One case would be to put forward, let's say, a code of conduct with fishers and divers, that this area would be protected and that they would not fish in this area. Voluntary measures are very important. I mean, the thing is that fisheries should be from the beginning supportive, not only in agreement, but they should have be involved, as the case is here, in the whole development of the measures to be implemented. But if we are speaking for a local scale, we cannot move and require the voluntary and abidement of all other fishers that might be close to Santorini and would like to use this area. And especially taking into account that the area is quite small, even if one user will not follow this code of conduct and voluntarily undertake the implementation of the measures, then this would cause a huge problem. Having a legal framework is very clear for everybody. You have a framework that is crystal clear for all involved authorities and users, and also there is an enforcement authority, which is the Hellenic Coast Guard, that can actually enforce these regulations, with which we are also in close collaboration and communication. The problem for this initiative is not the local approach. I think, and I truly believe, and this is something that we share all together, that all local stakeholders are very, very supportive towards this initiative. The problem is the central authorities that do not actually support it. Especially in part on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture. The Ministry of Environment is quite positive, since it was informed very recently, and we do have its support and we will move forward towards this end. But I think that this may answer your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barabas.
Thank you.
We are now in an open discussion about all the sessions, so feel free.
No, we have another question.
Yes.
I would just like to ask why the state does not support this effort. What is the reason why? I can't understand it. I can't.
So I'll give you some example. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is a ministry working with fisheries, has a competence on fisheries related issues. It doesn't have a clear mandate regarding the environmental protection of marine environment. This is a clear competence of the Ministry of Environment. However, since our effort is somehow based on these two pillars, which is fisheries and the marine environment, we chose at the beginning to move towards the first one, which was fisheries. So we moved towards the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Unfortunately, the General Directorate is very, very reluctant, not only to our proposal. It has a very general negative stance towards conservation of marine habitats and regulations in fisheries, in several other cases throughout the country. There are a lot of difficulties in also during our communication and formal request. There was a huge delay. If you saw from my presentation, it took them 1 year to reply to a formal request. So we sent our request in 2017, and they replied formally 1 year after that. It doesn't mean that the whole of the Greek state is negative towards this initiative. And this is something that I highlighted in the end, that the Ministry of Environment is positive. But the issue still stands that fisheries are under the mandate, the competence of another ministry, and we usually need both ministries to move forward in this kind of regulations. Hopefully, the new law regarding the environmental legislation in Greece that was published last year gives this mandate also to the Ministry of Environment. So areas that can be designated as natural monuments, especially in the sea, from their designation, they forbid fisheries. So this is why we have moved towards this ministry. This was a new development. This was not possible 2 or 3 years ago. So this gave us the opportunity to move towards this direction.
Thank you, Mr. Barabas. Would anybody like to add something or ask something? Nobody? We are approaching the end of today's webinar, so if anybody has further questions or would like to add something, feel free to do that now.
So if you allow me, I would like to just to make an observation, a remark. So as it came very obvious through all the papers that we were listening today, the management of sites that like Sandorini, Boutrain, Corfu, I mean major sites that really preserve both natural and cultural interest in a high level, this management issue is closely related and dependent on so many parameters that should be taken, of course, under consideration by the authorities. In the case of Santorini, as we all understood through the mayors and the deputies mayors and Mr. Gouleis' paper, you have already done a great work in terms of organizing and implementing a project, a management plan for managing these amazing sites. I mean, identically, this would be the first thing that all the sites should implement when they want really to manage and to keep a balance between the tourism factor, the cultural factor, the natural factor. The experience of the bodies who really manage these sites, even if they come from the cultural sector or from the natural environment sector, is really very valuable in terms of providing us with all this information that is needed. As you all know, I mean, maybe you don't know, not all of you know, but through the Mo.Νa project, there has been really done a great effort in order to discuss this kind of balance between the cultural and natural factor. And we have now almost reached a kind of certification system for sites that really keep these two balances, these two sectors in a quite, balanced way. So, if I understood well from the case of Santorini, and this is my question to Mr. Voulelis, if it is possible to make such a question. Do you think that nowadays Santorini, after all this work that has been done, both in a theoretical level as well as in practice, through all these things that you mentioned, is so much advanced that the island and the municipality is in a position to really, support the acquirement of the certification. That means that the island itself is a paradigm or is an example of keeping these balances between the two major factors. And of course, in the case of Santorini, as this seminar proved, the tourism factor is another one that really crosses horizontally all, I suppose, activities that are both related to this amazing landscape and to the cultural, presentation, preservation of all the monuments that are still standing in the island. So I would really like Mr. Voulelis' opinion on how advanced is Santorini on that way.